This episode is brought to you by Dashlane. Try Dashlane Premium free for 30 days at dashlane.com/infographics. And never forget another password and keep all your online accounts secure. Shinjuku Station in Tokyo, Japan is the busiest train station in the world according to the Guinness Book of World Records. It's a confusing maze of hallways and exits leading to more lines than we could possibly mention. And on any given day, 3.5 million passengers will pass through this place. As you can imagine, during rush hour, getting onto a train might not be easy. And that's where the pushers come in. These guys are called Oshiya, and if you were at that station and it wasn't looking like you'd get fully into the train, you might feel one of these guys on your back. This gives a whole new meaning to the expression rat race, because in some respects, folks are herded onto those trains as if they were animals. But it's a job that needs doing because it's well known that many Tokyo trains run at overcapacity. If you didn't get pushed in, the doors wouldn't close and the train wouldn't move. And nobody wants to be late for work, do they? Japan's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism said in 2018 that some of the busiest lines were well over the limit of 180% full. That office said that it just wouldn't do, stating that our bodies come into contact with each other and one feels considerable pressure. People don't really want to be that close on a train, especially considering that Japan has a problem with something called chakan, which means people taking advantage of their surroundings, but in this case, groping on trains. It happens quite a lot, in spite of Japan's media criticizing these rush hour fondlers. In fact, 50% of the hundreds of cases of fondling happens on trains. We are talking about pushers now, we know, but the fondling problem is also partly down to congestion. They've been around for a long time, these pushers, with the New York Times doing a piece on them back in 1964. Then there were 90 pushers working at Shinjuku Station, some of whom told the Times it was a demanding job. People so desperate to get to work often held trains up, while others were so busy trying to get to work after they lost shoes in the melee. It's a crazy job if you watch the videos because that pushing is sometimes intense, so much so it looks a bit like a game of rugby being played by men in black coats. We should just hope that none of those guys are fondlers who found a way to legally get what they want. He was such a good man. A stranger job by a mile is what we might call professional mourners. Sometimes this person is also called a moirologist. They're professional criers who know how to make the grief look real, so they have some acting skills. Why would anyone do this? We mean hire someone to cry. Well, it goes back centuries, and the tradition could be found in Europe. But right now, you might find these folks in countries such as China or Thailand. These countries are what you might call face cultures, meaning saving face is a big thing. And what if someone dies and not many people turn up to the funeral in tears? That's a big loss of face for the surviving family. The thing to do is hire some folks to look like they've lost someone dear and tell them to really turn on the waterworks. These people, who are paid anything from $30 to $100, blend in. You won't know there are actors around you, you likely won't interrupt their crying and talk to them. When the job is done, they turn around and happily go home. We actually found a company in the UK that rented out mourners, and they said their staff are very discreet. For around $60 an hour, they'll turn up at the funeral and stand near the back and make some noise. A few friends and family will likely be saying, "You know what, I just can't make that face." And then the professional will never be seen again by these people. But at this company called Rent a Mourner, the actors are more than just scenery. They might not approach someone, but if they do, they'll have to know what's going on. So the actors will have to meet the family first and get the background on the deceased. They'll also have to create a background story for themselves that links them to the dead. It sounds hard, and it likely is, but the good news for the actors is that they usually go in a group. You need skills for this line of lugubrious work, and you might just be very good with your memory and also a great improviser. One guy in London who did this job said in an interview, "The only thing sadder than a funeral is a funeral that nobody shows up to." So the decision is generally coming from a good place. He said he actually tries to mingle as he feels it's a big part of his job, so he spends a lot of time on his backstory. Can you imagine just making that up? Saying something like, "Such a sad loss, me and Jack went back years. We worked in a toy shop in Buffalo. Through the winters, we'd etc. etc." It must be quite demanding to do such a routine in front of people who really are sad. The guy in the interview said, "Naturally, since I don't know the deceased, it can be hard to work up to many tears about them. Some professional mourners I know can cry on cue like a toddler at Toys R Us, but most of us keep a supply of tools to help us jerk out some tears on command." He added that he'd only been caught out once, but the person who caught him out just said the deceased would have liked it. Canine culinary. The next job sounds a lot less demanding, and it just involves eating. Who wouldn't enjoy being paid for eating stuff? But what if the product you were hired to test was dog food? In this world, there are actually people whose job it is to test dog food, and this is what they do. It's actually a highly skilled occupation because the taster is the person who usually creates the dish and makes sure it has all the right nutrients. They work in a lab, but at some point when the concocting has taken place, they'll have to have a nibble. Those animals can't tell you how the stuff tastes, so it's a human that has to do it. The good news is that they might be paid from $40,000 to $100,000, and it's not just dog food either. Other pet food is tested by humans. We found a guy in the UK who is famous for pet food tasting. He works for the company Marks & Spencer, and his job is making sure the dog food is up to scratch. In an interview, he said, "I've trained my palate to look for materials that we will not allow in the recipe, such as tripe. Pet owners react badly to the smell of tripe. I'm looking for a pâté texture almost to the point where you could spread it on crusty bread. If you don't know what tripe is, it's the stomach of a cow. It looks like it sounds." The guy added that he thinks his job is very important and he's doing it for the pet's well-being and the owner's sense of trust in the product. He said, "The more we can make the pet food like the owner's food, the more comfortable we think customers will be serving it." A surgeon of toys. We'll keep this one short. This is a job of a person who fixes teddy bears surgically, and the title is Teddy Bear Technician. In Florida, they even have a bear hospital where the surgeons work. Why? We guess some people really love their teddy bears. Professional sleeper. This is the best job in the world if you are seriously lazy. One case we found of this job was when a hotel in Finland wanted to test their beds. They put out an ad asking for professional sleepers, but the US Space Agency NASA went a lot further than that, because Forbes reported that in 2013, NASA was hiring regular folks, but they had to do something pretty hard. That was to lie on a bed and move very little for a total of 70 days. Why, might you ask? Well, if the people are going up in rockets and spending a lot of time in a closed space, then NASA wants to know what effects this will have on the human body. Except they didn't want to use their astronauts for this experiment, and so they paid $18,000 for volunteers. The deal was you had to stay on that bed, but you were allowed to use a phone, look at a TV, even work on a laptop. You couldn't get off the bed. So we assumed the people were hooked up to a valve that they could urinate through. Subjects in the study looked at it as a way to help, said a senior scientist on the bed rest study, in that what we eventually do will help astronauts maintain their health while in space. She also said by putting someone in bed for a long time, there's also atrophy of the muscle and atrophy of bone density. It's now starting to sound pretty horrible. We wonder how many people dropped out of the study. But $18,000 for 70 days work doing nothing but sitting and lying down isn't that bad. Professional zombie. From hired sleeper to the living dead. According to the British media, something called the London Bridge Experience hired 2 people in 2009 to do the job of being a zombie. They got almost $40,000 a year to scare tourists, no doubt many of them American tourists. One of the guys who was hired said he'd gone for a similar role at the London Dungeon, but he didn't get the job. He told the press this is why. "The Dungeon said I was too intimidating and scary, and they told me to tone down my act." The Cuddlers. We started with Japan, we'll finish with Japan. It seems there are a lot of strange occupations in this country, and many of them involve touching people. While there is a line of work in Japan that means some folks are a hired boyfriend or girlfriend, and we mean really pretending to be a lover and not about bedroom stuff, you can also hire someone to cuddle you. For about $30, you can lie in a bed for 20 minutes and be cuddled. That's it, nothing else, just cuddling. The longest course we found was a 10-hour cuddle, which must be really hard for the cuddler. That will set you back about $460. You can fall asleep, of course, and we expect that it happens over 10 hours. Some cuddle cafes in Japan advertise themselves as co-sleeping specialty shops. Apparently, this is a booming industry in Japan, a country where some people work really long hours, and according to reports, more and more people are deciding to stay single. Some reports state that since the cost of living is so high, many men don't want the stress of bringing up a family, and many women don't want to be broke housewives. So more people are just staying single. This in part has led to what some media say is a booming industry of cuddle cafes. It's not just Japan though. We also found cuddle cafes in New York City and also Toronto. New York's Snuggery Cafe says it's all about cuddling and absolutely nothing else. It seems in this busy world there are a lot of people that just need a hug. It said more people don't get enough human interaction, working so hard, looking at dating sites, but not meeting and staying alone. Word on the street is expect more cuddle cafes to pop up. It's kind of nice, but it's also kind of sad. We thought a lot of these strange jobs actually sounded pretty fun, and we think the people doing them are probably lovely, well-adjusted people. But one strange job we hate and think that the people who do it are subhuman monsters? Hacking. Hackers are the worst, absolute scum. But what are we supposed to do about them? And how do we stop data leaks and online account compromisation? Don't worry, we have the answer. Dashlane. Dashlane is the one and only tool you need to keep your personal info and digital accounts safe and secure. They even offer monitoring services that will immediately notify you if it finds any personal information for sale in an online marketplace, so you can take steps to protect yourself from those scourges of the human race right away. Don't be like millions of victims every day. Get Dashlane and keep your digital life secure right now. Head on over to dashlane.com/infographics for a free 30-day trial. And if you use the coupon code INFOGRAPHICS, you can get 10% off a premium subscription today. Have you ever had a weird job, or maybe just a really strange thing happen at your normal job? Tell us all about it in the comments. Now go watch the 11 highest paying teen jobs. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.